Hey everyone, it's Mike with It's Pittsfield Tonight. It is Friday, April 10th, and I'm going to jump right into it. So we're going to start with the meeting that took place at Reed last night regarding the closing or potential closing of Morningside Community School. Not that big of a turnout. And I guess, I don't know how to feel about that. Some people that messaged me said, they would have went if it had actually been at Morningside. I don't know why it wasn't. That part I didn't understand, why it needed to be at Reed. I'm sure Morningside houses a lot of kids every day. It's more than big enough to host a meeting like that. And I don't know how many people were there, maybe 40, 50, 40, I don't know. It wasn't that big of a turnout. But there were people that got up and spoke about, please don't close this school. And I don't know, look, in my personal opinion, I don't know if the city is communicating this correctly. Because here's the bottom line with all of this. Pittsfield's population is shrinking. Pittsfield's school enrollment is down every year, year over year. We're down to like around 4,700 for the entire public school system. Next year, I think we're projected to be between 4,450 to 4,500. So we'll lose another 200 to 250 kids if those projections are correct. And that's just based off of the historical data. Look, it is what it is. And the closing of Morningside, I think, there was some people that spoke that saying, find the money, go to the state, do what you got to do, keep it open. If you can put in bump outs and rotaries. And I understand some people's frustrations, but, you have to look at the big picture. And the big picture is this. The things that I just mentioned, the population decrease, the school enrollment decrease, okay? And this happened in the 80s. When I was in elementary school, the city did something similar, and they closed, 3, 4, 5 of our schools. They closed a whole bunch of them. And it had to be done. The population was going down. And it has continued to. So there's that part of it. But the other side of it is spending. The city of Pittsfield likes to spend. In 2016, our city budget was around $145 million. Our city budget now, 10 years later, is closing in on $250 million. Under the last administration, under Mayor Tyre, up to where we are now, we have spent so much money. It is unbelievable. The city budget, like I said, in 2016 was $145 million. I think fiscal 26, it was approved for $225 or $226 million. We've spent a ton. And I always looked at Pittsfield as the city as if the city got the equivalent of getting a new credit card in the mail. They'd go, oh, yay, great, let's go out and spend all of this. We don't have the means, and you can't tax your way out of debt. Another big issue that has happened in the state is in 2023, on the ballot, Massachusetts voters approved and passed the millionaire's tax. And that was crazy because when a state is setting its own fiscal policies like that, right, and implementing a new tax on people making a million or more a year, they added another 4% in tax. So effectively 9% overall for people in that bracket. And when you have an option to move somewhere else very close by, it's not like you got to leave the country. You can just move to another state. What do you think is going to happen? Because what is the one subset of people that have the means to pack up and move? People with money, right? So who can't? People like me, you, the small business owner that has loans and maybe backed those loans with their house. They're trapped. They have debt. Their only way out is they either succeed or they go out of business. So when that millionaire's tax went through, guess what has happened? We've seen an exodus out of the state. Last year, Massachusetts lost around 36,000 people that left, and a big chunk of them in that income bracket. They took their money and went somewhere else. And then you see states like South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, Texas, Tennessee. You see growth in all these states because they created the incentive for people to bring their money in and spend it there. You can't tax your way out of debt. You have to grow your way out of debt. And that's what Pittsfield needs to do. You know, Pittsfield, like I said, in the past 10 years, man, we spent a lot of money, and I can't tell you, I mean, look at salaries that some city employees have gotten. I remember during the pandemic watching a Zoom meeting discussing raises. And the human resource director for the city got, I forget how much it was. It was like a 30% or more raise. And you kept hearing, well, if we don't pay people better, we won't be able to keep them. We'll lose them. But the reality is Pittsfield doesn't have the money. And if anybody thinks that Morningside is going to be the first school on the chopping block, I don't see that happening. As the population continues to go, more schools are going to have to go. We're going to have to consolidate. We do not have the enrollment. What are you going to do? Have 4 kids per class? And who's going to pay to keep these buildings open? You know, because I know all of you do get upset when you see your water and sewer bills and your bills for everything. Well, when people are moving away and people want to keep things open and keep spending, how are you going to pay for that? You can't just keep running to the state for, we need more money, we need grant money, we need this, we need that. The state isn't going to have it. And like I said, that millionaire's tax was a mistake, in my opinion. If it had been a federal policy, that would have been different. But the fact that people in that income bracket who have the means to pack up and move, they have the financial means to do it, and there's plenty of other states they can go to where it'll save them, you know, hundreds of thousands a year. That's what they did. And it is, you know, I had a conversation with somebody about this just the other day, and he mentioned things that I wasn't even thinking, how this has affected professional sports athletes coming to Massachusetts. Because as you know, if you're a pro football player or baseball player or something like that, there's big contracts, big money involved. And that higher tax bracket takes away that money from them. So some of them opted to go to other teams in other states for that reason, to make the most money. And who wouldn't do that? Who wouldn't do that? You're going to make the most you can. The idea is you have to have growth. You have to have growth. And the more you tax, the more you're holding down that growth. Because what is the incentive for businesses to come here and open up? What's the incentive? You know, the people that keep saying we need manufacturing. I can't preach this enough. How do you get it? What do you tell them? Come here and open a manufacturing plant. Yes, we have some of the highest taxes in the country. Yes, we have a shortage in housing. Yes, we don't have a lot of other businesses as amenities in the community. What's the incentive? And you can't just say, well, we'll give you a 10-year TIF. You can't just keep saying, well, maybe we can look at the PETA account and throw somebody some money. Didn't we try that kind of approach, and the state tried that approach also with companies like Wayfair? And what did they do? They bailed out of here as soon as those incentives were over. You know, I remember taking a lot of heat for saying that was going to happen. And it wasn't like I wanted it to happen, but the obvious writing was on the wall, just like with the Bird e-scooters. I talked about that from the day I covered it when they started it. And I said, this is not going to work. This is going to be a disaster. And the reason I talked about it that much, it wasn't going after a private business. The city had partnered with them and was promoting it and also using it to promote bike lanes. And I said, listen, this isn't going to work. And I went to that press conference with the mayor and the commissioner Morales, and it wasn't like I was mad at them personally. It had nothing to do with that. It showed people who followed the market knew that this was gimmicky. It wasn't going to work, and it didn't. I mean, we don't talk about Bird e-scooters anymore, but you have to do your research and you have to look into things. And I feel like a lot of us miss that big picture. So when you're talking about these schools, like I said, I don't feel that Morningside is going to be the first one. We're going to have to look. We're going to have to start making cuts. I said this before, the city is at its levy ceiling for borrowing power. And when you see the rotaries and the bump outs, many of those are grant money, state grant money and federal grant money that the city applied for and won. And it has to be used for those things. So when people say, why are you wasting this money on this rotary when you could do something over here? That grant money can't be used for that, right? You either install the bike lanes or whatever the grant is specified for, or you don't get the grant. You can't say, I'll take that grant money for X and use it for Y. It doesn't work that way. So there's that. And in closing, I do want to talk about, as I close this up, I want to talk about the upcoming meeting that is being held by Commissioner Morales discussing the Street Safety Action Plan for the city of Pittsfield, which will encompass in that conversation our bike lanes, our roundabouts and rotaries and all that, the bump outs, and what is going on with all that. The proposed one at East and Finn Street, all that. And it's being held at Hotplate Brewing Company on School Street. That I've received, since I did the last video mentioning that, I've received more messages. I don't know why I'm one of those people. Look, I support small business 100%. I've heard nothing but good things about the individuals that own Hotplate, that they're super nice people and all that. But a brew house, a brewery, a bar, a place that is not a restaurant or any of that, it serves beer, wine, and alcohol. It's not a place for a public meeting like this. It's just not. And there's for a multitude of reasons. One, I don't think you mix alcohol with public meetings like this. That's the first thing. I don't get that. Like I said, there's people that messaged me that said they would go, but one individual specifically that messaged me and said, look, man, I'm 5 months in recovery. I can't be around that. I can't go. And I felt bad when I read that, because we do have a lot of people in the community struggling with addiction. And alcohol it's a whole nother conversation. And listen, I'm not anti this or that. As many of you remember, I did the bar tour. I like to have a few drinks now and then. But at the end of the day, alcohol's a bad thing. And Gen Z knows that. Alcohol sales are down, way down. The new generations coming up are going away from alcohol. It doesn't have that appeal to them, but that's neither here nor there with this. It's when you're doing a public meeting like this, a bar is not the place to do it for those reasons. It needs to be in a public building. It needs to be in a school auditorium or city hall, something like that, where the people can go, and it's a public format like that. And yes, I get the name pub comes from them being public houses, traditionally going way back into Europe. That's what a pub was. It was a public house. It was the one place in the community where everyone gathered and had meetings and that type of thing. Not so much in the United States as much as churches were that. But anyway, I get all that. Somebody, I think, tried mentioning that to me the other day, or did mention that to me, and I said, I understand that, but it is the year 2026, and I just don't know about that. The other side of that coin is I had business owners message me and said, how come Hotplate always gets all these? Nobody's called me. I would let them use my business. I could use the boost in business. So there's that. I think to avoid all that, it needs to be a meeting like that needs to be in a public building. It just needs to be. It's not right to do it at a private business like that if that's not something you rotate to other private businesses. And then again, it's a bar, it's alcohol, it's a brew house, it's a brewery. It's not really the appropriate place to do something like that. The other side of that is scheduled for this coming Wednesday at the exact same time the school committee meeting that is discussing where we're going to find out if we're closing Morningside or not. That I don't like, because now you have to make a choice. Do I go to one or the other, or do I, try to watch the school committee meeting and not go to that? A lot of people watch these meetings on Facebook. That meeting last night had a big online audience on Facebook. I think that whole thing needs to be re-looked at for the streets safety plan, and that needs to be rescheduled on a different day, and at City Hall or in a school auditorium, a place that's easily accessible in a public building for people to go, because that's a big conversation. Believe me, all you got to do is go online and see how many people talk about rotaries and bump outs and bike lanes and all that. People want to be part of that discussion. There is no doubt. So I think that needs to be rescheduled. So that's that. I have an upcoming interview with Mayor Marchetti from City Hall next week. I'll be putting that out probably Thursday or Friday of next week. And we're going to talk about business growth. That's the main thing I want to talk to him about, is business growth in the city, the red carpet team, and what we're doing to support existing businesses. So I feel like that's a really important conversation, and we're going to talk about that. I also have my pizza promos coming up. I'm a pizza-holic. I eat a lot of pizza. I love pizza. So I'll be doing some really cool special features with South Street Pizza House, Papa Joe's, Berkshire Mountain Bakery, Portavia. God, I'm missing some. And there's a few others in there. And I'm excited about that. And it's not a contest. I know some people do these contests. I don't like that. Again, I've said that before. I don't like pinning businesses against each other. Every business has their own unique thing that they bring to the table. And that's what this is, highlighting some of our local pizzerias. And as many of you know, as the year goes on, there'll be other types of businesses. Excuse me, there's a frog in my throat. Other types of businesses for other things. So there's a lot on the table. I'll see what information I can get, and maybe I can reach out to the commissioner and see if there is a way to if he can't reschedule that Street Safety Plan Act meeting, maybe get him to do another one, since it is on the same night at the same time as the upcoming school committee meeting, which is going to draw everyone's attention. That's where we're going to find out about Morningside. So, all right, so that's all that. So that's a lot to take in, but it is what it is. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Get involved. Speak up. To the people who showed up to that meeting and spoke up, raise your hand. Just kidding. But to the people who went to the meeting and spoke up, thank you. That's what it takes. It takes community coming out and speaking up and getting engaged with the issues and being part of things, being part of the community. So take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll catch you all in the next day or two.